Jackson. This is the Bridgeport Linux user group. Today we're going to talk about Mosh. It's a mobile shell that's been developed by a couple of MIT students, I believe. I don't recall their names off the top of my head, but their website is mosh.org. It has all the information that you could find that you'd want to know about Mosh, all of its protocols, its specs. They've got a essay, a technical essay on there. They have a YouTube video. It's about 11 minutes long that really does a thorough breakdown of Mosh, how it operates, what it's capable of, and why they developed it in the first place. So first thing, Mosh, obviously its name is Mobile Shell. It's a remote terminal replacement for the interactive SSH. The key difference here between it and SSH is that SSH, when it loses its connectivity, it's generally dead in the water. You know, you can control C. Sometimes that isn't even enough to escape the terminal when that happens. So what Mosh does is it allows for roaming, and it keeps a heartbeat between it and the target server, so that when the connection is reestablished, Mosh picks right up where it left off on the remote server. It uses a newly developed protocol that was developed for Mosh in particular, called a state synchronization protocol. That's a series of steps, whereas the client and the server maintain, they perform a object-oriented state synchronization between the keyboard strokes and the server screen that you're seeing in your terminal window. It's free and open source. You can find its project up in GitHub. They have the link available there if you want to contribute or download and browse through the source code for Mosh. See all the pull requests and the merge requests that's been going on within that project. Activity on the project has been a little bit slow lately. Some of the last activity was around January. So there still is development on it, but it hasn't been steady like you would see in a lot of active projects. So those are some of the platforms you can get Mosh on. Available standard GNU Linux, BSD, Mac OS, Solaris, Chrome, Android, iOS, and Siglin. Windows isn't up there in particular, but the way they've described to get it on the Windows is to use the Chrome add-on for Mosh. So the big difference is, like I said earlier, Mosh maintains its connection persistently through heartbeat. SSH does not. SSH is TCP bound. It depends on that client handshake between your system and the target server. So anytime a connection is lost, that TCP connection dies, and SSH does with it. It doesn't let you know when that's happened. Usually any of us can tell when we've lost connection when the terminal stops responding to any of your keystrokes and Control-C isn't doing anything for you. Mosh, what it does instead is it uses UDP. Everybody here knows UDP doesn't care about the send acknowledge that TCP depends on. So the client and server both continuously send data at a controlled rate so as to not fill the buffers, whereas in SSH, part of the reason why part of the reason why you get that crash when the connection drops is your buffer fills up, and so your Control-C doesn't even work at that point. It reestablishes the connection when it does drop thanks to its heartbeat. So you could go down for 5 minutes, an hour, 2 minutes, it doesn't matter. As long as your system's still on and you still have that terminal up and Mosh is still running, as soon as a packet successfully reaches a server, the terminal picks back up.
Is there a max?
No. I have not seen a max yet. They haven't talked about a particular max. The only scenario I'd see where would kind of sort of hit that max is if you power down completely. But if you lock your laptop, get on an airplane, land 4 hours later, open it back up, get connectivity, Mosh will reestablish that connection. It also informs you when it's lost. You get a nice little blue status bar at the top of your terminal that'll let you know that connectivity's been lost, and it'll let you know how long it's been down. And of course, even if it is lost, which, you know, if you just turn off your network, you can still exit the terminal. So you're not stuck inside of that terminal waiting on it to dump you out. The way it does this is, ironically enough, it bootstraps over SSH. So it authenticates first using SSH to get you into the system. After that, it drops the SSH, and you can even check on the system that's running Mosh over a Mosh connection. You'll see that the SSH service isn't even running anymore. So it uses that for its initial connection, then switches everything over to UDP and begins sending datagram between your system and the server. It uses the object-based synchronization protocol, like I said before, where it takes the existing keystrokes on your client, sends that to the server. The server takes those keystrokes and combines those with the screen state, and then sends that back to your terminal. So that's how it's able to continually provide you your most current screen, even when you have a disconnect. And another cool thing is even if your IP changes, so if you jump on one access point, connect, drop access point, go to another one entirely, get a different IP, all the server cares about is the source that the UDP packet came from, and it'll reestablish the connection for the Mosh terminal based on that, based on the source IP. So it doesn't require that you reconnect using the same IP you had before. And this is just how that state synchronization protocol operates. Like I said before, your server side, it maintains the screen state. It receives keystrokes from the client, combines those two together to send back the screen to the client system itself. The client sends those keystrokes data to the server, and then it receives a fully functional terminal state back from the server. Some of the common situations, so Mosh itself is not a full SSH replacement. That's not something you use on a stable connection. If you wanted to, sure, but you wouldn't really use that, you know, at work, work Wi-Fi, home LAN. It's more meant for if you're tethering from your phone, you're out on the road a lot, you're using airplane Wi-Fi, airport Wi-Fi, you're between different access points or rural area connectivity. That's where something like Mosh really, is effective. And then of course on your back end, nothing really beats just having TMUX running. So if you're running Mosh in conjunction with TMUX, you now have a persistent connection that'll get you back to your TMUX session that's already running on the server. And as with anything, Mosh does have its limitations. The big thing with Mosh is it doesn't have scrollback history. So when you're in a Mosh session, there is no scrolling back through to see what you've already done, scrolling up the window or anything like that to be able to grab and copy down. It also does not have X11 forwarding. That seems to be, kind of a big thing over TCP with SSH is its capability to do that. They haven't yet got to that point, although they've been trying to figure that out, how to get the X11 forwarding to work over the UDP session. And the other thing, I don't know how much of a deal breaker that would be for some people. You don't get TMUX. You don't get the TMUX control mode in a Mosh session.
Did you get scroll back if you combined it with screen? I ran screen in the session.
I think so. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that is basically what most people within the Mosh development has suggested. Your scroll back is going to be dependent on TMUX and screen doing that for you. It won't have native. It doesn't have native support to just do it. So that's really all I got on the actual slide deck. Like, very short slide deck. There's not a lot to cover as far as what it can and can't do. It's a mobile shell. It replaces your interactive-based SSH, and it works best in intermittent connectivity situations. Like I said, using tethering, airport Wi-Fi, Starbucks Wi-Fi, situations like that where your connection is up and down. So I'll open up 2 terminals and I'll show you guys how this works. There we go. So right now we've got 2 sessions going. Top one is using SSH, bottom one is using neither because I don't have it on the right screen. So before this one is the SSH terminal. This one is the Mosh terminal.
Blow that up any?
What's up?
Just the font size,
What was the font size of?
if you can. If not, no worries.
You asking me hard here?
I think it's under preferences, isn't it?
I can see it just fine.
Well, it's, you know, Ray forgot his glasses.
Can
you use the plus sign?
I think the plus gives you another.
Well, it said it was like an 100% scaling. Like there was plus and minus next to it. Hit the hamburger menu again. Right there, that plus sign. That make it bigger?
Yeah.
This is 100%. It's more.
Enhance. Enhance. Enhance.
I'm just trying to get some things out there on the screen.
Magnify.
Yes. Now I'm gonna kill the connection.
Negative what?
So I'm gonna kill my connection. Right now I'm VPN'd in to my home environment, and that's what I'm SSHing into is a system located there. So I'm gonna kill the VPN connection, which will break my connection and my terminals to that server. You see here, Mosh is now telling me that my connection's gone. SSH hasn't told me anything. SSH isn't responding to the keyboard. Neither is Mosh right now. If I control C, the SSH does nothing. Let that go just a little bit longer. Make sure we're good and dead.
Can you run a Ansible playbook over Mosh?
Yeah, you can run. It'll keep running in the background.
I mean, it emulates the SSH connection and everything, keyless.
That I don't know.
It just gives you a bash shell, isn't it? Whatever
Yeah.
shell you want. It's just like you're using SSH.
Well,
Let's go ahead and restore the connection now.
Little shell.
oh yeah.
Mosh has not only restored the connection, anything I was typing during that break was sent back to me. So that's a feature of Mosh that they use called predictive typing. That's predictive echo is what they call it. Whereas if you were still typing when the session drops, Mosh attempts to guess at what you were trying to do and give you those keystrokes back. That also includes hitting your enter keys and stuff like that. So if you were starting to run a command and you were just about there and your connection drops, Mosh will attempt to complete that.
That's fancy.
Yes. And we still don't have our SSH back. Even though we've reestablished connectivity, the SSH is still out. Yep. Mosh is still up and running. We're still connected, right back on the server. Yep. That's all I got as far as Mosh goes. Anybody got any questions? I don't have Ansible running on this laptop. What you talking about? Oh yeah, I suppose if I'm gonna tell you guys about Mosh, I should tell you where to get it from. If you're installing it on Fedora, it's available right out of the box. You just do a DNF install on Fedora, and it'll grab Mosh out of the Fedora repos. For CentOS and RHEL, it comes out of EPEL. And then on Ubuntu, that's just an apt-get, and it'll grab Mosh out of the Ubuntu repos and install it. For anything else, you generally need to download it and then
Not the $20 version from the Apple Store?
Not the $20 version from the Apple Store, no. That's called Blink. They shouldn't be charging $20 for it. Let me pull up the Mosh page. So there is the webpage, mosh.org. So it goes through the whole breakdown on it, latest news, where you can get it at. It's really cool. I found out about it while I was in a class. The instructor mentioned that had we had Mosh, we wouldn't be worried about our terminal connectivity because the Wi-Fi in the classroom was acting up.
How long have you been using it?
Not very long.
Since March.
I found out about it in March, and I've been reading about it since then.
Yeah.
Like I said, the use cases pretty much depends on what you're doing. You know, if I got tmux in the background, I'm not that worried if I can just SSH back in, but if I can have the Mosh terminal up and just know I can pop back on when I open up the laptop and it's reconnected, that's a lot better than.
The reconnection, I think, is the biggest part.
Yeah, the reconnection is a cool part. But I can't say that I use this extensively. You know, I'm not in a situation where I'm all that worried about my connection. If nobody has any more questions.
Cut.
Cut.